we are here today for this community forum where we've invited students from Shiloh and South Gwinnett high schools to talk about what's been going on in the schools. This was a conversation that was born out of me having dinner with my son and his girlfriend. My son attends Shiloh High School and his girlfriend attends South Gwinnett. And I had heard on the news that week prior that somewhere between 18, I thought it was 18, I heard it was 20 fights in one school day. And as a consequence, the school locked down the students' access outside of the classroom. So they were taking lunch inside of the classroom, and their only time they were coming out of the classroom was to pass to and from class. And so we as the adults have provided solutions, or what we thought were solutions for students. And one of the things that has been said by some parents is that the new administration at the school board's policy, how they're doing discipline, is the reason for why children are misbehaving or not following the rules. I don't know if that's the case. I'm not in the school, but I'm interested to hear from the students about what they're seeing and what they want in the school. I'm not going to say your name, but I'm going to ask you whether or not you want to say anything about your experience being a student at South Gwinnett.
I'm a junior at South Gwinnett High School. I think recently South Gwinnett in particular has been having so many issues, and I think it does stem from COVID and students having that long period of time where they've just been isolated away from everybody. And I'm also a student leader, so like for the Gwinnett Student Leadership Team, some of the things that we identify in our meetings is that a lot of the students are just really short-tempered and they get really triggered really easily, which causes those fights and all those issues to start. And I do think, like Ms. Green was saying, we don't know some of those resources that we have are in our school. So we think we just have these counselors, like as far as academics, or if we need help with like college planning. But not a lot of the students are aware that we have those mental health counselors there as well. I was speaking to a student previously, and she didn't know about the mental health counselors that we had, and she was having some mental health issues. And I was like, well, what if you speak to your counselor? She can like connect you to other people. But she just wasn't aware. So one of the things that we've been talking about recently is just trying to make sure that every student is heard. We don't want to just hear the students that, you know, are doing good, or we don't want to just identify the students that are having the trouble. But you want to meet everybody where they're at and not give everybody the same type of resources. Everyone needs something else. Like everyone needs different resources. It's not the same for everybody.
That's right.
And I think that a lot of the students sometimes, like Ms. Green was saying, it's just like a small percent of the students that are causing the issues or are making these changes happen at our school. But for the rest of them, they're either, you know, focused on their academics, or they're just in their own lane, not bothering anybody. But for that 5 or 10%, some of them are just goofing off and doing things just because, you know, they want to be cool or whatever. And then the other 5% are having those mental health issues that they need to be addressed. Like those that are being triggered easily. They just learn from home or from their friends that that's what they need to do. But in reality, that's not going to solve anything for them.
Yes. So do you think there are some things that, so we talked about mental health, some conflict resolution skills. Do you think there's anything else that you're not seeing in the schools that you and your friends have talked about you want to see in schools?
I think a lot of the issues are that some of the conflicts that we're having within our schools aren't being addressed. Like, we hear about some of the events that happen, like the fights and stuff, not because the school addresses it, but because of social media. So, like, the fire that South Gwinnett just recently had, of course we knew because we got the fire drill or the fire, and then we had the firefighters, and we knew. But, like, the situation that was happening, we found out because of social media. That's why everyone didn't know if it was a drill or not, because the announcement lady had first said it was a drill, and then she said, wait, never mind, go outside. So we were just all panicking. We were like, how extreme is it? So I think one of the things that the school just, well, I would like to see, and I think some other students would like to see, is just the problems being addressed. And then when first, like, I don't want to say the chaos, but when things in trouble started first happening, like, it was one incident where, like, there was a drive-by, someone had called a drive-by, but the student was in school the next day. So since the school didn't address it, we saw the guy that was there the next day, and we were like, oh, he's still here after he had caused all that mess yesterday. Why is he still here? Like, did he get any consequences because of what he did? So that just enables students to be like, okay, he's here the next day. That means I can do something like a little fire or something, and nothing will happen to me.
Okay. So some of the kids may feel like they don't have any consequences.
Is that that's what you're hearing?
That's what that's.
Yes, I hear that a lot. They're like, oh, no consequences are happening, so I'm just gonna do whatever. Like, we have this new thing called silent lunch, I guess, but it's never happened. And
they're doing silent lunch in high school?
Yes.
My kids did that when they're in elementary.
Yeah.
And so what is silent lunch?
We haven't actually had it, like, I haven't seen it being actually done, but I know in middle school it was just the students were placed in an empty classroom during their lunch break, and they just couldn't talk to each other.
Okay. Were you guys able to go into the cafeteria? Or you had to eat in the classroom?
When all those incidents and lockdowns were happening at South Gwinnett, we were in our classrooms, and like Ms. Green had said, we were only allowed to see each other in passing when we were transitioning to our other classes. So we had 4 class periods a day, and then lunch was served during our 3rd period for that day. And we recently just went back to our regular, 7 classes a day schedule. I think it was last week. And then the first day we came back to the normal schedule, there was another incident happening. There was brawls happening, fights happening. And then right now we're just waiting, we're just waiting for them to send us back to eating in the classroom 4 classes a day. So.
Wow.
Was anything explained that you're aware of, was anything explained to the students about how the new disciplinary policy was supposed to work, or people just kind of
I think
figuring it out.
Figuring it out, yeah.
Most of that information is sent through the email that our principal sends to the parents and the PTA. But I think as far as conflict resolution and trying to figure out how to deal with conflict, most of that comes from the organizations and the student organizations that we have. So we do have advisement for South Gwinnett. And sometimes student council, they'll put together a slideshow about how to deal with these conflicts that you're having, or how to take care of yourself, and how to resort to other solutions rather than just violence. So they do have that, but some teachers, they don't enforce that the students should go over it. So they just spend that time talking to their friends and focusing on that. And those people that are talking with their friends, they're the ones that usually need that advice or need that help.
Information.
So that kind of puts just a gap between everybody, because the ones that are actually listening, they already know usually what they need to be doing, and then the ones that are not, they're just doing whatever. So they keep prolonging the the negative things that are happening in the school.
But there is a student-led push to show some conflict resolution skills.
Yes, Gwinnett Student Leadership Team. That's what I'm a part of. So we have summits and different conversations where we invite the students to come and express how they feel similar to this, and we give them resources and advice like that. So most of that is from the different clubs and organizations, but like you said, most of the students that are causing the problems, they're not going to willingly go to
attend.
They're doing whatever they want to do.
Okay.
And with that, does the information that you collect from those seminars that you have amongst your peers, does that go to the administration and then up to the school board so that maybe they can implement some of your ideas? Who gets to hear your voices?
So, the summits that GSLT does, those are usually 3 or 4 times a year. And we do have sometimes special guests. Last time, we've been collaborating with Mr. Calvin Watts, the superintendent. So sometimes he will sit in, but his schedule is pretty busy too, so maybe he's only able to come when it's his time to speak. But our sponsors are Dr. Cunningham, and then we also have our principal, Ms. Jarrett, as one of our sponsors. So sometimes, when we have meetings, she'll listen to what we have to say, but it's not an often thing, because she also has a busy schedule, and she's trying to deal with the issues at her school. But most of it is just between our our leadership team. And then we just try to tell the students, but like I said, most of those students are already doing what they need to be doing.
What do you feel you need? Go ahead. Pick one. Grab a mic.
I want you to still have yours. I'm curious about a couple of things. So first, I'm going to make the committee list to look at what you all are collecting in these sessions and how you can be more impactful as students, because you all do have a role.
I think that with the organizations that I'm a part of that are like student-led, most of the time, yes, I would say we are trying to like directly help the students without going to like the school board. And I do think that's important to do. So I won't try to further like let them know to do that. But most of the time when we are in those situations, it is because they're doing a guest speaking at our school, and we will meet with them and we'll discuss what's happening at our school. We also had Everton Blair last spring. He came and spoke to our leadership summit, and he did give us some feedback about what he thought was appropriate in like the school board and what things he did want to change as well. So we got some input then. Like emails and communications, we haven't been doing that. I think right now the students are also stressed, the student leaders, they're stressed right now because they just want to learn too, so they're dealing with all the mess that's happening within our school. So I think right now it's just like that iffy state for us.
Okay.
So what can the adults do to lift your voices?
I was just about to ask that question.
Why do you
Ms.
need to
Tillman.
be supported?
Right now, I think, like I said, they just want the issues to be addressed. And I think the students want to know what actually is happening. And although we do have social media and we're waiting for our friends, not everything is credible. So we want to know what's actually happening in our school. Because the only information that we're getting is from Instagram or group chats or friends saying, guess what just happened in this hallway. So I think if our administration told us what's happening, and we do have the parent emails, but if they told the students directly, like, this is what we're doing to fix it, then maybe we can see, and let them know what in their plan we agree with and we don't agree with. That would be good. And then maybe
Transparency, so that's what we're hearing.
Yeah. And then some type of like just space where we can say how we feel. Like we're always able to, email the administrators, but it's unlikely that we'll get an email back sometimes. And then we can speak to our counselors, but they have their own schedules too. Seniors are working on their college applications, so they're also busy. So most of the students, we go to our teachers that we feel trusted, like the teachers that we feel we can talk to, we'll rent to them or something like that. But there's only so little they can do for us.
So second, you want to be heard. So I heard
That's
transparency and you want to be heard.
Yeah. A space where you can actually communicate and be heard. Yep. Yeah. No one wants to walk around and not know what's going on. None of us do. None of us do. It sounds like y'all getting news from TMZ, and that's what you have to, that's what you have to rely on, and that's not right.
Not at all.
All of these schools are yours.
Our Shiloh student, did you want to add anything about Shiloh? Okay. We can hear you.
So a lot of what I was hearing, at least from South Peninsula, was that there's no transparency in the school. I remember over our homecoming week that a couple of days we'd be on soft lockdown. We wouldn't even know it. There wouldn't be no announcement made. I think the teachers might get an email or something, but it wouldn't have been made apparent that we were in soft lockdown.
This was happening at Shiloh?
What is soft lockdown? What do you mean?
It's where, because a hard lockdown is where they can't let anybody in the school. A hard lockdown is where they can't let anybody in the school leave or enter, and that almost like it's an active shooter drill. And then with the soft lockdown, it's more of the students staying in classrooms, no passes, no one can be traveling in or out. And so what was going on was, apparently there was a bunch of fights one day. There was I was hearing from one teacher that she was told there was 5 or 7 fights going on throughout the day. There was no announcement made or just anyone aware of that situation going on. And because when I stayed after for the different events I'm a part of, they made it harder to stay inside of the school building if you're staying after. So I remember one time we were trying to, I was had a Marlyn meeting, and then I was going to practice, and then like the administrators were like just rushing everybody out, and like they weren't letting people like stay in the building. They were making sure that the people who were not laying, but like staying around, lingering in the building, like going to different classrooms in different areas. But it was all because of the soft lockdown before.
So how and when did you find out it was a soft lockdown? Because I'm a Shiloh parent and I didn't know there was a
Because
soft.
I was about to say, and what communication is going on?
I didn't know there was a soft lockdown. John's a Shiloh parent.
So we have a couple Shiloh parents in the room, and it seems like this is the first time they're hearing that. So what time frame is this?
I believe it was around that week that we had homecoming, like the end of September, and we were told that it was a soft lockdown because they had brought the lunch to our classrooms.
So the people bringing the lunch told you that it was a soft lockdown?
No, the teachers told us.
The teachers told you.
The bell didn't ring for lunch.
What do you need to feel supported at Shiloh?
I would say that there needs to be like more transparency and there are things going on, and a lot of things like when the bathroom caught on fire at South Gwinnett, I think it was a vape pen that exploded or something happened with it. And so when you don't have kids able to have like proper conflict resolution, they resort to like other ways to deal with their issues, like vaping or smoking, or just other things to like help them cope with the issues they're having.
So you're seeing a need. Do you see a need for conflict management, conflict resolution at Shiloh as well?
Yeah, because I know this year, I feel like just like things have been more active in the school. Like we've had more just like clubs, more teacher involvement, there's more people being involved.
Okay.
And then I've noticed that the school has been overall less just, not active, but less just wild as it usually has been.
Okay.
So you saw, and I'm just making sure I hear you correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong. You see more parent involvement, and as a result, you see less wilding out in your school.
Yeah.
To piggyback on that, I know that John Harris has done Distinguished Dads. I know that my husband has done Distinguished Dads.
Yeah, I was telling somebody about that.
What?
Yep.
How is that received by the students?
What is Distinguished Dads? And then, because some people don't know what that is.
Do you want to speak on that? Or you want to let Mr. Harris speak on Distinguished Dads? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because I mentioned that to somebody else, and they were like, "What is that?" So I was like, "I'm glad you brought that up."
Yeah, and as a father, it's something that I was asked about if I would be willing to participate in. And it's basically an initiative where dads will come in to the school and be there at specific times and help out, whether it be, walking the halls, assisting with transitioning between classes. Like I shared, I was in ISS. It's just really about providing, I believe, a presence for one, an extension of, the I don't want to say extension of a leadership per se, but, just the idea is to kind of promote a sense of peace, a sense of calmness, and also to engage the fathers within what's happening within the schools, which you don't have to ask me twice about that. I mean, because I think that it's, as a dad, I'm my child's teacher.
Yes,
how I look at it.
yes.
And everybody that works with my child is a supplement to what I do. So to be able to go in and be there on that level is to me is really something that's pretty excellent. And I know we're getting cranked up again now for this school year. Okay. So really a great initiative.
Okay. And so, what has been students' response to Distinguished Dads in school?
What I've seen, I can't really answer that one.
Okay.
At least for where I am, or at least like how my schedule is, I'm not really able to like see all the Distinguished Dads that are in the school, but I know that they are definitely affecting some people, because I remember last year, it's like this year I can count on hand the number of counselors that I know and I can like, at least last year I can count on hand the number of counselors that I know that I've seen walking throughout the hallways, and like, but this year I see more like just the counselors and the administrators just like being more involved in the school.
Okay.
And like you be able to put a name to a face, and because even the principal roams the halls nowadays.
Okay.
That's good.
She'll like just encourage people to get to class on time and just do the right things. Because I remember Dr. Gore, she's a sponsor for a couple of the clubs I'm in, and she has this saying: "It's get to where you need to go, do what you need to do when you need to do it."
Okay.
Okay.
So just advocating that people are just like moving with discipline and just more responsibility.
And you think that's you're thinking that's making a difference, that's impacting and clicking with some students?
In a small way, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a push in the right direction.
Okay. All right.
That's real good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some good
Yeah.
information. If the principals in the hallways, and I love that saying.
Yeah. So,
It's going to take a lot of little things.
yeah, a lot of little
It
things.
is.
But from what I've heard from both of you at different schools is transparency and
Lifting their voices being heard.
letting their voices being heard is important. So, and that's something we definitely have to take back. And what I'm going to get with you about, Marlyn, is how do we make it known about this multi-tiered disciplinary policy and making sure that everyone is properly trained? Because if the students don't actually know what it is, then there's a lot of misconception. I think the teachers have a misconception. I don't want to speak for them, but from what I'm hearing, parents have a misconception, because I know what I'm seeing online. And parents are saying, I'm withdrawing my students from South Gwinnett. They are leaving because of what's going on. And I will say what I always say, this is our community.
That's right.
We have to fight to make it better. We have to stay and make it better. And I want to try to make my little piece of the world just a little bit better.
Absolutely. And she said, I can't tell y'all to boycott, but, my thing is to absolutely do whatever fight you need to do to have your voice heard and speak up. So you don't necessarily have to boycott, but you definitely have to rally around and get folks online to make sure that we know.
Yeah, she's a little bit more radical than I am.
Is that the term we're going to use to call me radical?
It's okay. I like you, though.
No, but yeah.
So we have a few people here that are engaged in activities involving young people, and we wanted to be able to offer them some solutions.
Correct. Support.
At the school. First, I'm going to ask, since part of the problem was students getting into fights, it appears that conflict resolution, conflict management is a skill that students haven't either been taught or absorbed, learned in schools once they've gotten to the high school. And so we have John Harris here, who is the executive director of ICANN, Inner City Achievement Network. And John, could you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing with young people?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's great to be here. Yes, I'm the founder and executive director for the Inner City Achievers Network, ICANN. And our mission is to assist young people, along with their families, at improving the quality of their lives through education, community engagement, and yes, conflict resolution. The truth is that if the parents don't have it, then that very likely means that children don't have it. And if children don't have it, that means that they're taking it to schools where they're with other children who also don't have those skills. And so when conflict arises, everybody really kind of reverts to whatever they may have heard. Exposed to me not just the dynamic of teaching people how to block, punch, and kick, but also how to use your brain. And what are the things that should happen prior to even getting to that point when I may have to put my hands on someone? What are the signs that I need to be looking for as an individual that say to me, conflict may come out of this? And how do I respond to that? What are the things? What are the nonverbal things I can do? You know, Gwinnett County has the largest correctional facility, I believe, in the state. And they're expanding it. Which means that their expectation is, because understand, our young people are going to find themselves on the wrong side of the law, and they're going to end up incarcerated. So they're preparing for that. Well, you know, as I was sharing earlier, Inner City Achievers Network, I want them to be prepared. You know, verbal judo, you know, understanding body dynamics, you know, the nonverbals, all of that stuff is so critical in understanding conflict resolution.
So John, how do we
yes.
incorporate that into either curriculum, or how do we get that to the students?
So, honestly, curriculum.
Okay.
I mean, you know, looking at the school situation and how can we fit this in from a curriculum standpoint, and then working with an organization like ours, when can we come in and talk to young people? Write this one down. People change when they address the conflict affecting their choices.
Okay.
So create those spaces within the schools that allow for that type of real dialogue to take place and serve up real solutions. And that's what we're about, real solutions.
Seems like it needs to be a way of life. The conflict resolution, the conflict management,
That's right.
those skills need to be a way of life
right.
with our students.
Absolutely.
And as part of being proactive, one of the things that I was talking about with son number 3 and and his girlfriend when we were at dinner was, I was asking, you know, did they know about counselors being at the school? And neither of them knew about mental health counselors. They actually thought I was talking about guidance counselors. And so I know from work in other communities that community-based mental health resources are embedded in the schools. But these two were saying that they weren't aware. And so today we have Ellen Garrett, who's here from Viewpoint. And if you're not familiar with Viewpoint, Viewpoint is the community-based health, the community health-based resource that's available for, is it Gwinnett, Newton, and Rockdale? Okay. And if you could tell us about the work that Viewpoint does in the schools with the students, that we would appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. Viewpoint Health, as you mentioned, is a behavioral health organization that serves adolescents, children, and also adults. The Georgia APEX program was started in 2015 with support from the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, known as DBHDD. So with their support, it allowed therapists such as myself to be able to go into the school setting, right, which is where we know young people spend most of their time, and allow us to provide individual counseling to them, which is a way to early on identify mental health challenges, as well as try to prevent it to become more of a severe issue to where no support or help was provided for that young person. And also making it accessible for parents, where they don't have to take the youth out from the school to bring them to an outpatient center. Right. It's in an environment that they're aware of. We have, it's in-house, so we have offices that the schools provide us with to be able to, you know, maintain confidentiality and have that space and time with them. You know, as we're talking about it, yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of young people that attend the schools that we are in are, they're not aware of the Georgia APEX program being available. We do work closely and rely on the school counselor, because that is kind of that kid's first contact, right? And through them, they kind of identify those youth who need that support. But if the young person doesn't know about the program, how do they know how to access it? And so I think a lot of times it is that unawareness, unfortunately. We are in a lot of schools in Gwinnett County, and we're aware of the issues that are going on, and we're expanding since 2015. So currently we're in 22 schools throughout Gwinnett County and growing.
How many representatives per school?
one clinician per school.
Okay.
And we have a few because we're, kind of getting really large,
Right.
and the need is there.
Right.
There might be a clinician who is at one school maybe 2 or 3 days a week, and then at another school 2 or 3 days a week. Yeah.
How can we let parents know? Because I understand you were saying that the counselors identify the students who may be in need of the resource. But if a parent is noticing some things at home, how can we make parents aware that that resource is there?
Yeah, letting them know, some schools in Gwinnett do have an on-site therapist. If you can talk to your school counselor about those concerns, and then that school counselor can then make that referral for that young person. Parents too, we do have a parent nights that some schools do, and we go out and educate them on the program and the services in the schools that we're in. But sometimes they don't know that there is actual therapy available for their child.
So is there like not a mass communication that may go home with them monthly or routinely, or newsletter, whether the child needs it or not, like to let the entire school population, if you have a population of 3,000 students, like just do a mass newsletter, attach it to that? Because if it's only going to people who they think they identified, you still have a whole pool of people who just still need to know that those resources are there.
Right. That's a great point, and something perhaps we need to look into to spread the word and bring more awareness.
Yeah.
We definitely want to make sure that parents get that resource, because if it's the 5% that are being underserved and as a result they're not getting their education and causing other children to not get their education, we want to make sure that that resource is getting to them, that they get those skills of conflict management, that they get the mental health resources.
Information and access.
Yeah.
That's the key. Information and access. And everything shouldn't be associated with the dollar. Everything shouldn't be associated with an organization trying to make a profit. We have way too many organizations, nonprofits, different entities that are doing great work within Gwinnett County. We need to partner with those organizations, apply them, allow them to be a part of the curriculum, like reimagine what school looks like. I think we're constantly looking at old ways of doing things, and it makes no sense. Especially when you sit here and you're telling me that Gwinnett County has the largest prison and they're sitting up here growing more. And I guess that's a great segue for you to introduce our next guest.
If she wants to talk on camera.
I'm sorry.
If she wants to talk on camera. So we have with us Marlyn Tillman. And for those of you who don't know, I don't know where you've been, you might have been living under a rock, but Marlyn is the executive director of Gwinnett STOPP. And I shared earlier is that there is a narrative that because some schools have moved to a multi-tiered disciplinary policy, which is different than the one strike you were out kind of policy before, that students are now saying, or students, the appearance is that because students aren't being pushed out of school at the first consequence, that they're misbehaving because there's no consequence. Could you shed any light on that?
So let me just say that's not why students misbehave. And there's the narrative that this all just started because student discipline policies are changing and they're becoming more restorative. And do we want the children thrown out at every mistake? Everyone should understand that misbehavior is the product of an unmet need. And if we don't start to meet those needs, we're going to see more of it. The other thing is, I have to do all of my definitions here. Discipline means to teach.
To correct, yes.
But there are staff who want to do different.
Right.
And they want to do better. They don't know how to do it. And if we don't invest that time and resource and money, that $1.5 million that we just added on top of the police budget in Gwinnett County Schools, that could have gone a long way.
You said an additional $1.5 million for police presence in our schools.
School
yet
resource officers.
our educators, our mental health professionals, none of that went towards any of that to help them better.
They had another $1.5 million that they saw fit. The Gwinnett superintendent has been, was at the Gwinnett Chamber of Commerce at an event, the State of Education in Gwinnett. And I'm going to repeat his remarks. He's looking at, he said he is considering metal detectors in the school. We don't need more criminalization.
Right.
We need people being able to interact with people. We need people being able to have conflict resolution. We need people who are looking to invest in our children. Investing in criminalization is just not the way.
And about the restorative practices. What should we be pushing for? And what should all the parents be pushing for, and community?
So one of the things that Gwinnett STOPP does in our public education series of various things, we educate parents on how to advocate around budget items. We teach them where the money is, and then to start pushing. Like you said, reimagining education. We cannot keep coming up with this 1940s model
Right.
on 21st century kids. How are we going to do that? The world is not in the 40s as much as they want to take it back.
That's important to reiterate, in my opinion, the time. A lot of parents say, I'm working 5-7 days, I can't make it, but you still have email, you still can make telephone calls. So you have to use other measures than just saying, I can't make this date and time all the time. And then if with all of these resources here, if you're partnering with these parents, because a lot of times people don't have the language, they don't know what to say or how to advocate.
Nice to meet everyone. So I do want to share that I am a part of a organization kind of similar to what you were sharing. I'm a program director for community-based mental health and behavioral health programs. And one of the things that we do is we go out in the community where the families or the children are. Whether it's the home, whether it's the school, wherever they are, we meet them where they are. And one of the things that we focus on is the family unit. We provide the resources to the family, whether it's individual counseling for the child, the adolescent, or the parent. We also provide the training for them. And then we also have individuals that provide that community linkage. Because when we talk about providing services to kids, we have to also look at there's so many layers and so many gaps with even the family dynamics. You know, whether it's the educational gap, whether it's, you know, the mental health component, so many gaps, financial gaps. So one of the things that, again, within the resources of mental health is really connecting the family, those needs that they don't have, really connecting them and meeting those needs. So that's some of the things that we do within our organization. That organization is Health Connect America and Georgia Hope. So we partner with, again, I'm more of community-based. So again, I kind of run a team of clinicians who are licensed therapists, and again, people who are certified in behavior aid management. So again, you know, we work with the community and really connecting these families with these resources.
So that was Georgia Hope, and what was the other?
So we are merging together, so it's two company names, Health Connect America and Georgia Hope.
Okay.
Two large companies coming together.
And so your organization goes into the homes?
The homes and the schools, in the community where they are, anywhere that client is.
Okay.
And that's so good. But
I forgot to ask about costs, and I forgot to also ask a viewpoint about if there's a cost to the family.
So as long as they have Medicaid insurance, or I do know we have grants that for individuals who are uninsured, we can provide those resources.
Because you know there's a lot of working folks, families, who make too much for Medicaid, but don't make enough to pay insurance, even with the subsidy. So for those people, there might be some grant money available. Okay, all right. And then I forgot to ask about viewpoint.
Yes, the same. So if there are individuals that are not insured, we do serve them.
And if they do have health insurance, usually we just bill their insurance.
Okay. All right. And I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off.
I'm used to it, girl. That's what we do, this is what we do, sis. No, I just wanted to say I love the fact that you go into the homes, because even though we do all these elements in the school, our children still go home. And having that support when we don't feel supported, it's tough. So I love that you're in the home and you're in the community, you meet people where they are, and then they're more likely to respond to you. And open up, and you're more effective and able to penetrate, right? And so now we collectively, because it takes a village.
It does.
It takes.
I know that sounds so corny,
girl, but it's the truth.
It is. It really is.
It's the truth. Lisa, please tell us a little bit about To Each His Own.
Well, To Each His Own was birthed out of myself having suffered from anxiety and suffered a panic attack in 2017. I needed an outlet. And from that point to 2016, when I got my certification, I was just certain I'm going to open a yoga studio.
We've been talking today about conflict resolution and things that are going on in some of the Gwinnett County high schools, and services that we could provide to young people, and things that we could offer to young people to help them. Yeah. Do you see yoga in any part of that, and meditation?
Yes. You have to find other ways to do it than, edge. The kids be on edge from COVID, and people being so short-tempered. There are so many adults that are dealing with that. So I can only imagine when the kids go to school, somebody said that. There's so many levels that need to be addressed. And that one thread that everyone was talking about is the student. None of you would have jobs if no one understands that the student needs are first.
That's part of students wanting to be heard.
Yes.
That's
wanting to be heard.
What they need to feel safe, what they need to feel empowered, what they need to feel supported.
And feel like they matter, most of all. Feel like they matter.
How many days a week do you offer yoga classes?
7 days a week.
7 days a week, okay.
I practice every day, so I'm here every day.
All right.
And 20 minutes a day. That's it. You don't have to do a full hour.
Yeah.
I've had your class. What's that pose you had me turn up where you throw your legs up?
We're doing, it's either the plow, and you were really good at doing the wheel.
The wheel. So definitely.
Which is number 8 over there on the board.
Love the class. Tell everybody where you're located.
We're located in Snellville, Georgia. So we are all for the community. 1987 Scenic Highway, Suite 207. We're in the Michaels Plaza, right off of Highway 124.
And more importantly, if there's one thing that we could take away from this conversation today, is that the adults as well as the young people need to partake in mindful practices.
Yes.
Mindful practices like yoga, mindful practices like conflict resolution, conflict management.
Deep breathing.
Talk to mental health professionals. Because there's, and one of the things that I have to say is that in our community, that has been such a stigma, to talk about mental health, to work with someone on conflict resolution, to bring someone in who can teach those skills, and about mindful practices, because so oftentimes we think that these are white people things.
Yes. I'm a huge advocate for mental health because I am a person who has a diagnosis myself. So having Basu Lisa's class or working with John in other areas, it helps me. So I'm a huge advocate in trying to make sure that we do this, because we have to have, even like I hate the suicide prevention. We need to talk about that. And then hopefully not only are we talking about Shiloh and South Gwinnett, but we want to expand to the middle schools and the elementary schools, because we need to make sure that everyone is supported on all levels. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much
for allowing us to be in your wonderful space. It has a lot of positive energy, So please, everybody, check out To Each His Own.
Yes.
Right here in Snellville.
Right here in Snellville.
Thank you again for allowing us to share your space.
Thank you.
And for us to facilitate this conversation.
And I'm hoping this platform helps do that, because one of my biggest fears with the increase of everything getting worse is that we have something very horrible happen at one of our schools. And when you having all these shutdowns and weapons and fires, and the grace of God that we know of, no one's been hurt. But I'm just prayerful that we can get together with the solutions, listening to these young voices and amplify them. They deserve better from each and every one of us.
And I'm willing to lend my voice and my time
Amen.
To help come up with solutions. I live in this community and I want to see better. I choose to stay in the southern part of Gwinnett County because that's where my community is.
That's right.
And so I just implore to parents that if you're watching this, do not cut and run. Let's come up with solutions. Let's listen to the young people. They told us they want transparency and they want to be heard.
That's right.
That's a starting point. And then let's also get to work to make sure our educators and our students and the administrators know about this policy and that they're appropriately trained. So we got work to do.
We have work to do.
And with that, thank you for joining us on this Sunday afternoon when you could be having dinner with your family and spending time. I really thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely. And